Hi, I'm Shaun. Come all the way from England, so really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come meet us today and come and listen to us have a chat. My background started in professional sport, which is in rugby union. So I was, as a 17, 18 year old, I was very, very skinny. So at 6 foot, I weighed about 68 kilos. So really skinny, really small. And when I signed my first contract to play rugby, the first thing they said was you need to get into a gym, otherwise you're going to get killed. And so what I did was I went and joined a gym, and sort of before that first season, when I went into my senior first grade of rugby, I went from 68 kilos to about 90 kilos in about 4 months. And it wasn't necessarily a good sort of weight, it was just eating 3 or 4 lasagnas a day, just loaves of bread at a time, and just going in and training as heavy as I could to try and just get my body a little bit bigger. And when I came back for pre-season, the coach was like, okay, let's see if you can still run. So they stuck me out on the wing, and I played professional rugby for about 4 years until I just got killed on the field. As in, when you go and you tour around and you play against Fijians and Polynesians and stuff, they just, they stick their second rows on the wing and they just ran over me all day. And I've got chocolate shoulders, and yeah, I didn't last too long at that level. So from there, I fell in love with the gym almost more than I kind of loved playing rugby on the field. So it was one of those ones where I could have rehabbed and kind of taken the time and effort to try and get back playing rugby, but I thought, you know what, I actually enjoy the gym more than I enjoy the rugby stuff. So I just kind of set my sights on a physique show, and then it was kind of at that time when men's physique was just about becoming popular. So I entered one of the first shows there was in the UK as a bit of a bet with my training partner. We just kind of said, yeah, let's do this, let's train for a show and see how we get on. And it kind of snowballed from there. I never really set out to be up here talking to you guys and do this as a job. It was just kind of one of those things where you want something to train for. You guys know that unless you have a goal in the gym, sort of getting up early in the morning, and when you've had a long day at work, getting in there after work, if you've not got something burning a hole in the back of your mind, sort of motivating you forward, it becomes very difficult. So what started out as just something to train for has now become a huge part of my life, and sort of gives me the opportunity to come around and travel the world and speak to people and do something that I love. So from a competing point of view, I entered the British Championships first and kind of was very lucky to win that, and then that kind of gave me the opportunity to move on to the international stage where I took part in the European Championships. This was with the WBFF. Do you guys have that over here? You do, don't you?
Yep.
I don't think it's as popular as the IFBB over here.
No, not yet. It's only just really started the last few
Yeah,
years.
it's one of those things where in Europe it's really big, in America it's not really big at all, and then it's kind of spreading onto a more global platform. I think there's 2 or 3 shows here in Australia. So I did the European Championships in Iceland in 2012 and was lucky enough to win that one, which gave me an invite to go and compete in the Worlds in Toronto's. And then I went on a bit of a winning streak, and I think I won the next 3 or 4 shows and got myself 2 world titles in the sort of process. And that's kind of where I am today. I got picked up by Optimum back in 2012 and have kind of really enjoyed just being part of the team there and getting to travel around, getting to hang out with this blonde bomber. And sort of, really enjoy my fitness, and the competing side has kind of taken a backward step as the travelling and this sort of stuff has taken a front step. So that's kind of where I am today.
Very nice. I can tell you guys, Shaun right now, he's happy to be out of the US and in Australia, because everyone in the US, hey, are you Australian? Everyone, so he's not getting that here in Australia. Us Americans, we can't differentiate the accents. Yeah. Pretty pathetic, but well, yeah, I'm Steve Cook from the States. Grew up in a place called Boise, Idaho. Most people, when I say Boise, Idaho, they probably couldn't tell. Any of you guys tell me where Boise's at? Kind of, no, yeah. Most people, when I say Idaho, they think Iowa, but I'm in Pacific Northwest. It's actually a decent little fitness place. So it's a decent little fitness city. I live in LA now. I grew up kind of like Shaun, similar background in sports. So I'm one of 7 kids, really big family. And in that family unit, we were all very, very competitive. So we all played sports. I can tell you right now, my dad was, I love the guy, but he had a few screws loose. And what I mean by that is, like, if I got in trouble, I had to do push-ups. If I wanted to go hang out at a friend's house, I had to do push-ups. If I wanted to watch TV during commercials, it was push-ups. And for me, that worked out because I think you could tell from an early age, I loved my body from the very get-go. I was that kid in high school that had 25-pound dumbbells, which is like 12 kgs. Every day was arm day. Every day was arm day. That was the first thing I really fell in love with. But I played high school football, was a running back, and then, if we would have had rugby, I think I would have rather played rugby. But we had, I went on, played college football, a place called Dixie State in southern Utah. And, the whole goal throughout that was, I loved working out. I loved being in the gym training. And because my dad was super, he claimed that he made us go to the track and run because there's a lot of kids and he couldn't handle us all if we weren't tired by the end of the night. So he went and exercised the hell out of us. But it really set me up for a good athletic career in college. But what I really loved was in the gym, just like Shaun said. So I had the bodybuilding encyclopedia, and I just would do my lifting stuff. I would do my, the heavy power movements, and then I'd go back on and do my curls. So I had that bodybuilding kind of mentality even as an athlete. So after I got done playing college football, I had a brief little tryout type thing with the Tennessee Titans for the NFL. Fractured my ankle right at about the same time, and it kind of didn't pan out, and I was kind of over football anyway. So I started kind of turning my attention to bodybuilding. There was no men's physique at that time. So I started off in natural bodybuilding in the NGA. My first contest was the Muscle Mania. And then from there, started looking at other competitions that involved board shorts. So again, still before men's physique, there was the Muscle and Fitness Male Model Search. I did that one. And then I did the Spokes Model Search, and I won that one. Then I was picked up by Optimum. And that time, had a couple other companies I was thinking about going, but Optimum was a product that like when I thought of supplements growing up, it was gold standard. So for me, that was kind of the product that I'd always taken. So it was easy. I was like, I'm gonna get free product. Yeah, I'll go with the brand that I have taken all my life. And from there, I've really, men's physique kind of, it was kind of a timing thing. I was in the right place at the right time with men's physique, and kind of a push. There wasn't just that outlet for bodybuilding. Now bodybuilding, I loved the natural bodybuilding that I did, but there was really only so far I could take that. So when men's physique came out, I looked at it as an opportunity to really grow, and I was the third men's physique pro ever. I was the first one to qualify for the Olympia, and I was really on a winning streak before the Olympia. So Shaun talked about his winning streak. I won a lot of shows up until that first men's physique Mr. Olympia. And I really learned a lot actually from that loss, to kind of reevaluate and restructure what I wanted to do necessarily. It wasn't just about being a competitor at that point anymore. I turned more towards YouTube, and I turned more towards making my brand and traveling with Optimum Nutrition and really making a career out of this. I remember when I first started, people said, you can't make a career out of it. Men's physique, it's bodybuilding's younger stepbrother. Like, nobody's going to care about it. But it's just been a tremendous push towards more attainable physique, more, I think, balance with athleticism yet. And I think that really plays well in Australia, just because Australia is so in tune with health and nutrition and sports too. The background here with rugby and Australian football, and cricket, yeah. It's a very sports crazy place, and I think that plays well into a men's physique standpoint. You don't get so big that you're not really functional anymore. So I still look at competing as something that I might do in the future, but for me right now, I'm having just a lot of fun with just traveling all over the world and just trying things that I'm crappy at and trying to get better at them. So whether it's bodybuilding, or I've picked up Olympic lifting, some gymnastics stuff, whatever it is, it's just pushing your body and trying to be better than you were yesterday. And that's really a healthy place, I think. So, yep, that's me. Sweet. Do we want to open it up to the floor? You with the amazing beard.
So, obviously last year you brought out the Olympia.
Yeah.
And you've come out and said recently that you're trying different things and you want to push yourself a little bit better. Was there a reason, was there a specific reason to do this? Was there something I guess, behind the scenes that you didn't really tell anybody about the reason behind it? Or is it...
I like that. Is there anything that you didn't tell the rest of the world that you want to tell us here today? Respect. You know, I think really for me, I felt like it was where the men's physique division was headed. There were things that I didn't feel comfortable with. I didn't want to be bigger. I didn't want to be harder. I didn't want to. That to me took away. When I think of, you know, I always tell people you have to visualize what you want your life to be, or what you want your body to be. Whatever it is in life, it has to be what you want. And that men's physique division, I think, in order for me to feel like I was going to win or to do well, I would have to have done things that I didn't necessarily agree with my own body, and doing things that I think would have taken me off the path that I wanted for my future, like long-term things. So it was a decision that, you know, again, those guys that competed looked great. I think that if I ever do compete again, I'm kind of waiting to see where this new division, this classic physique, kind of reshapes and restructures men's physique. But if I ever, you know, the nice thing is, you know, I compete for me. I think that, you know, so often in competition, we get, you know, caught up in what the other person on stage is doing, but really it's you versus you. But that being said, I like winning too. And I feel like it just wasn't a look that they wanted. They wanted a bigger, harder physique that just, you know, at that time I didn't want to put my body through that. So I thought, you know, I was gonna do some other things, tried CrossFit, checked that off the list, had a good time with that. But no, it's, you know, it's all about just really doing what it is that, you know, you're passionate about. And for me, again, that's trying all physical fitness, different outlets, and bodybuilding will always be the core of that, but it's having fun with it constantly. And I just, you know, wasn't having fun with that kind of competing mode, especially where I thought it was going. Good question though. Does that answer it?
Yes.
Okay. Any YouTube questions? Any yeah.
Have either of you considered making your own brand or company? Or down that?
That's a great question. I won't get that Dean back there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to talk about that?
In terms of a supplement brand
Oh,
or any product,
yeah.
it's not something that really appeals to me. So, in terms of my background from a sort of 9 to 5 day job, I run a health club business in London. So I own a high-end gym, and for me, it's a case of it hasn't got my name to it, but most people associate the brand is City Athletic, but most people associate that with me. So for me, I don't really want to have Shaun Stafford's gym. As in, for me, I'd much rather be able to walk into a place and then 3 or 4 years down the line sell it for a lot of money, and walk away from it. So that was kind of the strategy for me. So in terms of things like clothing brand and supplements and that sort of stuff, that doesn't have the appeal for me. So I wanted to kind of create a health club empire in London. So that's kind of what I'm working on.
If it was Shaun Stafford's gym, you'd have to be turning people away then.
Oh.
Now you get, it's kind of covert when it's City Athletic.
Yeah, under the radar.
Mm-hmm. It's a good gym though. If you guys are ever in London, check it out. For me, yeah, in terms of supplements, I would love to do something with Optimum. You know, that might be a possibility down the line. I think that's something I love. I've always really associated my brand with Optimum's brand as a you know, a fitness career person. I feel like Optimum's always kind of stood for what I've stood in terms of, with Optimum, kind of what you see is what you get, and that's kind of always what I've wanted to be. But yeah, clothing stuff, got the new Swole Nation sweats on, just came out with a bunch of new clothes, and that's an area that I really love. So like, you know, for me, you know, making more men's fashion, gym stuff, like I think that there's a huge outlet out there right now for dudes and girls that are, you know, like you get Lululemon in the States. Is Lululemon big here?
Not huge.
Not as big as like Lorna Jane. But yeah, so like for more on the guy side of things, you know, scoop net, like stuff that you can wear out on the streets, but also to the gym, you can, you know, feel good working out. And that's more of what I'm looking at right now and just kind of getting started in that. But I think those are, the question you're asking is, you know, like how do you expand your brand? You know, how do you, you know, reach out? And I think that that's, as somebody who's looking, how many people are looking like, you know, who would want to do this as a career one day? I mean, are there anybody in here that look at fitness like you would?
Not through fitness though.
Okay.
Fitness through gaming.
Through gaming? Like a Doug Sensor Martin type thing. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'm a friend of Doug.
Nice, man. Yeah, he's doing well. There's just so many different avenues with social media out there, and that's really the name of the game. Is social media can become a full-time job if you allow it to, and there's good and bad with that. But I think that really is your chance to grow a brand and really do everything. You know, now we're seeing, you know, people like Christian Guzman, people like, you know, Dana Lynn Bailey, and they do everything from clothes to supplements, and that's the power of social media for sure. Anybody do YouTube in here? You do YouTube. Okay, gotcha.
I focus more on competing and gaming.
Oh, nice.
So I wanna do well and win in that instead of focusing on the YouTube sort of thing first. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But like you said, I want to make it a career.
Gotcha.
So I understand that social media, YouTube, and building your brand and personality is it's
super important.
You have to do it. But
yeah.
For me, it's like you guys. You know, do you think you'd be in the position where you are if you didn't win the competitions that you won, or do you know what I mean? You know,
and that's a great question. So people always ask, should I compete to get where you're at? You know, if I want to do what you do I need to compete? I don't think it hurts. But there's definitely people out there. Greg Plitt never competed. He's a person in the fitness industry. So I think it's about having a niche. Christian Guzman is a kid that never really competed. I mean, he does it just to create content. So content is king. You know, if you're putting out something, whether it's YouTube or whatever it is, you're giving people a reason to follow you, and that makes you unique, and people really get attached to that. And YouTube is really powerful for that, only because it's really the only avenue where people really get a look into your whole life. You know, with 10-minute videos, you know, you can't, on Instagram you can be a certain way, or people can Photoshop or do whatever. YouTube, it's just raw. It's you, and that's really powerful.
I feel like I have to, you know, you got to take and give, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like you got to win to get the followers and the name out there, but.
Yeah, and I don't know how it is. What gaming is it?
Call of Duty, same as.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So. Yeah, if I could have got paid to do that, I would have been doing that. What was your question back there?
I was just going to ask, how, for the both of you, how does your motivation differ toward whether it be competing or your sports from the time before this was your career, when it was just also your hobby, versus now that it's your career? Is it a good thing? Like, does it improve your motivation in a positive way, or is it negative that you feel like you may have to do things perhaps?
So for me, it's a case of this year, when I was planning sort of 2016, I've just had a little baby boy, so my son's now 6 months old, so competing is a very selfish pastime, as in, because the focus that you need is absolute, you've kind of got to say no to a lot of things, and you've got to really focus on yourself. So your friends, your significant other, your family, they almost take a back seat while you're so sort of tunnel vision on the show. So this year I made a conscious decision to say, actually I'm going to take a step back from the stage and put a little bit of time and effort back into my family, my friends, my business. And so what I'm going to do, because you still need that goal to focus on in the diary to be in shape for. And so I basically said to Optimum, okay, I'm going to Australia and I'm going to Ohio and then I'm going to Spain and the Olympia. So they're my two kind of dates in the diary where I want to be in shape, and we're going to shoot videos, we're going to shoot, you know, content for magazines, and kind of that's the goal rather than stepping on stage. So I think being in the position that we're in terms of having a profile and being sent around the world doing this sort of stuff, that's motivation in itself. And you know, I don't want to turn up out of shape for you guys. If I came here and like, oh really, that guy's a pro? It happened. So for me, in terms of the motivation has shifted more towards, as Steve said, producing content for my Facebook page, my Instagram, that sort of stuff, to try and motivate and get a good message out to people that are following me, rather than going to go and win another trophy. So that's where the motivation comes for there.
Yeah, I kind of totally agree with everything you just said, but no.
You zoned out, didn't you?
I blacked out what happened.
Remember the question.
No, yeah, I definitely think it's always easier to be, you know, I'm the type of personality, it's really hard for me to do something half-assed, so it's either all or nothing. And I think this kind of industry and competing attracts that addictive personality type. And that's me for sure. So it is hard when you're kind of just like half in, half out, you don't have anything on the horizon. But that's why I like to, you know, you can do a short-term YouTube series where you're getting back into it, or you're bulking, or whatever it is your goal is. It's about being accountable. And I think that's what really a show does, is it keeps you accountable. And so many people get a coach and you're paying money and that's why I think a coach is good. It's nice to have another set of eyes, but when you pay money to somebody, you're going to be accountable, or so, you know, shows do that. But it's also nice if you tell the world that on, you know, through various social media platforms or whatever it is. And it doesn't always have to be a show. How many people have competed or want to compete in here? So a fair amount. And I think, you know, one of the things that I see happen with me and a lot of people just in fitness in general is they do a show, and bodybuilding, unlike any other sport, it's solely about looks. Everything else is always about performance. So, you know, you're a football player, you're rugby or whatever, it's about performance, not necessarily how you look. So when all you care about is how you look and you get off the stage, you can't live at 4% with water depleted. So, you know, walking around at 4% just isn't realistic. And I think that's a really good time to shift focus, because so many competitors get done, they bulk up a little bit, they're kind of depressed that they're not 4% anymore, and they eat, and then it's the post-contest blues, I always like to call it. So shifting that goal to more of a performance goal, into increasing your lifts, or even to doing, you know, like I ran a half marathon after I prepped for the Olympia, like I was going to do it because I had photo shoots. After that, I kind of shifted a little bit. Instead of just taking time off, my body was tired, it needed some time off from that intense prep. I shifted the focus a little bit, tried something that, you know, I was out of my element. But always having a goal for something is definitely something that I always like to have, whether it's just improving numbers or looks, because without that, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. Really easy to stop at Hungry Jack's and just kiss. Did you guys eat at Hungry Jack's? That's the only one I know. Nobody does now. My bad. What's like the place you go to? It's like Pig Out here.
Thank you. I saw a Nando's.
Nando's.
You Nando's over here, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know Nando's, a chicken place?
I love Nando's. I love me some Nando's.
So like you said, you weren't going to do any more like fitness competitions. Do you have any sort of aspirations to compete in other stuff? Like you mentioned Olympic lifting, CrossFit.
Yeah.
Did you register for the Open?
I did not. Are you a CrossFitter?
A little bit.
No, I didn't register for the Open just because for me, there's lots of CrossFit that I do agree with. I agree that like Olympic lifting is very beneficial, but again, it's more of a performance thing. Bodybuilding will always be the core of what I do, and really trying to stay healthy long term. And I do think that the times, you know, some of those movements for time, Olympic lifting that is really risky movements, that doesn't necessarily equate to, you know, your joints being happy in 10 years if you do it over and over and over again. So when I do, like I said, I take parts of it. It's so funny though, I throw up an Olympic lifting video or something, people just CrossFit, and it's like Olympic lifting was around long before CrossFit, gymnastics was around long before CrossFit, but I think, you know, it's good for, you know, the average person who's just getting back into shape. And that's one thing that when I did that CrossFit video, there was so much hate on it, both good and bad, I guess. There was it's just a polarizing topic. But at the end of the day, if you're getting people moving and you're getting people active, it's a win-win. Whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's CrossFit, whatever it is, it's about health at the end of the day. And that's really where I want to take my brand. Is I would love to travel around the world and pick out something unique in each place that I go to, whether it's like surfing or, you know, in like Vancouver, Canada, like they're huge into trail running. Like just doing something that you're crappy at, and then you work hard at it and you get better at it. Because that's kind of like life. Like life really, like it's all about learning how to learning how to push yourself in a way that you know you pick up on things, and there's nothing better than being shitty at something and then getting better at it.
So you both said you got reached a high level of sporting. So yeah, I just wanted to know, between sporting and bodybuilding, what happened in between that time? Because once you reach a high level of sport, you're like, oh, this is great, but as soon as that stops, all of a sudden you've got like, what am I going to do in my life?
Yeah.
You've got bodybuilding, but it's not like you can just go straight into bodybuilding. You don't have that muscle maturity. So in that time between being high-level athletes and then becoming bodybuilders, what did you guys do, or what went through your minds? You know,
Well, for me, I didn't start bodybuilding until I was like competing until I was 23. So I did kind of have, you know, I was 240 pounds. It's like 110 kgs, maybe a little bit more. That's what I weighed when I played American football. So I had muscle, It was just, I had to bring it back down. I was probably, 12, 13% body fat at 240. I had to come back down to like 207 to compete. So it wasn't necessarily the muscle maturity for me because I was already 23 and I had been just concentrating on getting bigger. It was the diet part of things. But that was the time in my life when you're talking about, you have an identity as an athlete. Your whole life, you're a football player. Your whole life, you're a rugby player. That's how you kind of identify yourself to other people. You go through this time where you're a little like, I don't know what to do. But that's, again, why it's important to be okay with not being good at something, and instead of quitting on it, I'm not good at it, I'm not going to do it, to work and get better at it, to learn, to really, you've done it before with a sport, you've done it before with school, like you were bad at something, but by putting in the time, by putting in the effort, you know that you can do it. And I think, that was really what got me into bodybuilding. I didn't know what else to do. I was like, the only thing I've really known is football. What I can control in my life right now is how I eat, is working out. And I was going through a divorce at the same time. So there's really all of these, a time that could have been really bad in terms of a lot of negative factors influencing my life. And I think you could have gone one or two ways. And I kind of chose bodybuilding to kind of have that structure and kind of just focus on something. And like anything, you start at the bottom and you just slowly move your way up. The hardest working people usually rise to the top in whatever it is.
Obviously, as Steve said, I guess it goes to both of you, both on social media. And Steve said, you got a lot of slack for trying CrossFit and doing this, that, and the other, because you've been in this little well where you've done bodybuilding, and that's what people are used to you doing. How do you respond, I guess, in a nice way when you can let rip into someone? Because you put up a photo of videos with the title "Getting Back into It," and someone put back into juice, or back into steroids, stuff like that.
People love that.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you sort of condense it into yourself and not? I mean, you've got an image to hold, obviously, but how do you do it?
If that's part of the job, I guess, this comes with it. You're always gonna have people that no matter what you do are going to downplay that. But you have to think, what I always think about is how bad is that person, whoever it is at the keyboard or whatnot, on their phone. Like, people who are successful in life or people that are doing well aren't the ones that are bashing people. So I try to put myself in their position and think about, there's something in their life that they're unhappy with, that they're struggling. And Shaun's dad actually has a great quote that I try to remember when those things happen. But yeah, it gets frustrating. If you sit there and read comments, a lot of times I don't even read comments just because it's, again, people are going to have their opinions. I'm not going to go and change anyone's opinion on whatever it is out there, whether it's CrossFit. Like, all I can do is live my life how I want. And hopefully by the way you live, by being positive, having a good energy and really supporting other people out there, you win people over by doing that, not by arguing with them. If me and you got in an argument, I'm not going to change your opinion on anything. So I've really tried to shift it from really changing people's minds on things, so letting people believe whatever they want is about whatever their minds are made up to be, but it's not going to get to me. I'm not going to let that change or dictate how I do things. And what's that quote your dad says?
He said, don't argue with stupid people because they'll bring you down to their level and beat you on experience. So.
It's a good quote.
My brother-in-law says, don't worry about dickheads, otherwise you become dickheads.
also good. Also good. Yeah, so we call them, in the UK we call them trolls. Do you call them trolls over here?
Yeah.
So I just say don't feed the trolls. And the worst thing is that my mum is on my Facebook page and she doesn't get it. So like,
she feeds the trolls?
She feeds the trolls. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like if there's a little fire, if you just, don't give it oxygen, it'll die away. If you pour gasoline on it, it blows up.
You never mess with the mother.
Yeah, well, my mum's like, my Shaunie's a good boy, and I'm just like, oh God.
Mum!
I've had to actually call her up and be, please stop, otherwise I will block you on my
You block your mum?
I block my own mum, yeah. But yeah, what I see is, so say we post up a workout, or we post up a photo, and if you get 100 comments, maybe 5 of them are bad, and I think most people kind of focus in on the 5 bad ones, but if you look at that, in terms of a broad spectrum of what you're actually doing with that post, you're probably motivating and inspiring 95% of the people that interact with it. And those 5%, as Steve said, they've probably got, they're probably sitting at a keyboard, feeling a bit sorry for themselves or, you know, a bit upset about something. You just got to think, you know what, kill them with kindness, as in it's really not worth us getting aggroed about.
And another thing I was going to say with that is, I think that, you know, there's a quote, you know, push what you love instead of bashing what you hate. If I sit there and I, you know, go after the trolls, what that's going to do? It's just going to breed more people saying bad things all the time. And sometimes, you know, I'm human. Sometimes you do. You say, you know, a lot of the times, like, you know, I just laugh and, you know, try to say something funny back. But some, you know, you're not going to be perfect all the time. But, you know, if you recognize the bad things, you're just going to get more bad things in your life. So I think it is human nature to really pick up on the negative things, because those things tend to hurt us more. Like happy's, you know, the positive things are great, but we don't really focus on those as much as we should. But I really have been trying to, you know, tell people I appreciate their comments, that when they're nice and when they're positive, because that's really, you know, like that's really, I think that what we do is trying to promote a positive, healthy lifestyle. And I think that you know, if you're focusing on negative comments, it'll never ever be positive, no matter how much you try to change their mind.
And you do get a thicker skin.
Yeah.
Like the more you do it, as in for any of you guys that blog and post, and you just develop a thicker skin with it, and just it comes with the territory. Yeah.
Cool. Guys,
Thanks, guys.
Round of applause for
Thank you.